welcome to the new year and the next episode of the Midierror Meets podcast, where we talk to a wide range of people from the music world. This month I'm speaking to Jonny Amos, who is a super talented pop songwriter and producer, as well as being a talented guitarist, vocalist and performer. Jonny works for a Scandinavian Pop specialist and has penned a huge number of songs for some really big artists over the years. He's also done sync writing for MTV, FilmFour and Sky One, and is the creative director of a pop production company of his own called Songlab, based in Birmingham. I caught up with Jonny about 2 weeks ago to talk about his career, and the first question I asked him was about his musical beginnings.
I remember having a keyboard in my mum and dad's kitchen, and I used to play what I now know as firsts and thirds. So I used to hit these chords, sing along to something. There was a cassette recorder in the corner of the room on the microwave. And when my mum and dad were out, I used to record ideas. So I'd put a cassette tape on, I'd record these first and thirds, and I'd use my other hand over here. So I've got like two note chords on my right hand, and my left hand to the right of that hand. It sounds totally bizarre, but I used to now know what I now know is top lining with the other hand. So I would create melodies on like an octave or two higher, and then I'd turn those melodies into vocal melodies and put lyrics to it. And I was doing this when I was like 8, 9 years old, and I was so shy. I was a really unconfident kid. So I'd keep all these tapes, didn't do anything with them until I was 15 or 16 when I started playing guitar, and then I used to revisit them, and I still got them. All the places I've moved to over the last 20 years of making music, I've taken those tapes with me, and every now and again I tap back into them if I need new ideas, and I'll just convert them into MP3s, stick them in Ableton and see what they are.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great, man. And do you remember what keyboard it was?
Do you know, I should know, but I can't remember. I think it was a Casio of some description, and it had a purple drum kit on the front with those pads. Those kind of, they're more like kind of MPD pads, that kind of, so you can feel the middle of it. Just one of those typical kind of 80s keyboards that had bossa nova and swing and all this stuff, But
yeah, we were so lucky, our generation, to pretty much every household had one of those keyboards, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like even I think going to my nan and granddad's house, they just had a keyboard that did all those, all the beats. Yeah.
And even church organs in that era seem to have them. Like they just even kind of standard old upright church organs had those buttons on that you could just hit. You're like, wow. God. And it's weird because at that time, a lot of people, like the 808, you listen to it and you go, people at the time, I don't like that because it doesn't sound like drums. And it's the same with those keyboards. I don't like it. It doesn't sound like drums. It sounds naff. Now, all these years later, those sounds are cool as hell, and they're sampled all the time. They're used all the time.
Yeah, and what else is also really cool now is the tape thing that you were recording on back then. Everyone's recording things back through cassette tapes now, and for the like the crunchiness, the lo-fi element.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It's sort of beautiful, isn't it? For like the nostalgia of what that sounds like to you and me.
Oh yeah,
we're like, it elevates the music that's being made by the youth now, because it's like, yeah, that's what we had. That wasn't a novelty for us. That was the high fidelity of our time.
Yeah, that wasn't lo-fi. That was for your hi-fi.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd get a pencil in the middle and start unwinding and go, right, let's take it back to this and blah blah blah, and which kind of moves into kind of where people would cut tape or 2-inch tape, or you cut it and splice it together, and wow, we've got it so easy now. It's great.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier, isn't it? It's so much easier now. Did you ever play those tapes to anyone?
No, even to this day, no. Still haven't even played them to my wife, and she's a musician. No, they were always. I think it's because I was really, really unconfident child. And I just wasn't comfortable singing in front of anybody or playing in front of anybody until the Britpop era in the mid-90s. And that's where I started going, okay, you might start playing guitar here. And then I started to then tap back into, oh yeah, I did used to do this without any influence. And then when I started playing guitar and voicing chords and working out this and that, it kind of then started to come back to me a little bit more. But I think also the Britpop era is really important in the 90s for me and for countless others, I'm sure. You know, that especially that whole Oasis message of like, yeah, look, anybody can write songs, you know, nick them off this song, nick them off that song, play them here. Noel Gallagher made it sound so simple, and people like me were hooked in by that, and I still am.
Definitely. Yeah, it was so fruitful. I mean, such an incredible time, wasn't it? It was so inspiring. There was just music everywhere.
Oh God, yeah. I think we are in years and years and years, decades to come, we'll look back and I'm sure we'll say how lucky we are to have been the age we were when we were. I think we were dead lucky. You know, there was so much good music around. It was pre-internet. I don't mean to sound too old when I say this, but I mean, the modern times are great. They're amazing for a whole multitude of reasons, but I think we were lucky.
Yeah. The pre-internet thing is a thing that people are starting to like really think about now, isn't it? They're starting to go, yeah, maybe it was better when we didn't have the internet. Maybe it was a bit easier. So did you go into like playing instruments in your teen years?
Yeah, I remember picking up the guitar thinking I want to be the best guitar player in the world, and it's never happened because I just got completely distracted by songwriting. And, you know, you think, right, okay, I've learnt this, I've learnt a major scale, and I've learnt, you know, sort of basic diatonic setup of how chord systems work. So now I know that, there's so much I can do with it that I'm less interested in knowing this scale or that scale, and I know I shouldn't be, but I'm kind of still like that, if I'm honest. It's I know it sounds a bit cheaty and non-purist, but like, because I use the Ableton Push when I'm creating melodies quite a lot, so I can just literally set the scale on there, doodle around, and you end up playing stuff that you wouldn't necessarily come up with if you had known your classical scales in the correct way, you know?
Definitely, that's definitely true, yeah. I remember having discussions with people back in the day about, oh, you should know music theory, and some people are like, no, you shouldn't know any, you know, you should just do it free.
I think there's a balance, isn't there, like a lot of things in life, there's a balance, and I think, you know, as long as you know how to use theory, and you know what a major seventh or a minor ninth is going to do to a song, and you know how to extend things. But we're now in an age in Britain right now where extended chords are back in fashion again. You know, and that's surprising. You know,
what's generated that? Do you think?
It's a good question, mate. I don't know. I study these things all the time. I actually think it's the influence of K-pop. I really do. I think it's the influence of K-pop and that culture that's kind of sweeping around the West, where it's almost like classical values have been... Also, people are bored of, like, you know, 1-5-6-4 chord arrangement stuff. It's just been so heavily used. It will come back. These things always do. But right now, it's dead as a dodo. And even just those same chords, but in different patterns. You know, you look at anything the Chainsmokers have succeeded with over the last 2 years, it all starts with the fourth major.
Does it?
Yeah, and that's fine, because that's a formula that they've done. I mean, maybe not everything, right? But there's a formula there that they've done. So instead of starting on that one, they're going on four. So they're still using the same big four chords, but they're putting them in a different order, and that's interesting. You know,
it is great to like know all that stuff, because like from your point of view in production, you hear that the moment that happens, whereas I haven't got a clue. I could probably find that on a keyboard if I was trying to, but yeah, it's interesting that everyone comes at music from a totally different angle. That's great that it comes from the K and J pop. Obviously, they're huge industries of their own, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But also, I think there's other contributing factors. I mean, crikey, you only have to look at EDM, right? You know, everything 5 years ago was 4 on the floor, 128 BPM. Now it's not, and there's probably a number of reasons to why EDM's slowed down, but it's really because of urban music. When you really analyse it, you don't even have to go that deep to work that out. It's hip hop is king of the world. It has been for a few years. It will be for at least the next year or two, I think. and the influence of triplets and straight eights and all that, and scattered rolling snares and stuff that's everywhere now. It's in EDM. Somebody played me a techno record the other day that had a trap snare roll in it. I thought, wow, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, and those things are also being built into software as well, aren't they? Like you're able to do those sort of those ratcheted hi-hats or snare things sometimes with the flick of a switch. I've seen it on in pieces of software. Yeah, and I think maybe that the resurgence of like sort of underground music, street music like hip hop and grime is because of the accessibility to making music that we have now, making high fidelity.
I think so. Especially, I mean, if you look at grime and drill music out of the UK, it's not necessarily exporting itself internationally very well. It remains a very British thing, but the actual, the music behind it is incredibly minimal, and I don't particularly like it, but we can't ignore it because it's a thing, a huge thing. And the number of hits that people are getting online is just amazing. I know labels that spend good money on putting an artist out and they don't get anywhere near the hits that these street kids are getting.
Yeah, exactly. There's something to be said about integrity as well, isn't there? And like intention, like some people putting big bucks behind an advertising campaign that's slightly subliminal, and all that, and really deep into the marketing, whereas a kid in their bedroom in their pajamas is making like the next big thing. Like, it's really, really
and there's
cool,
3 notes in it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking down on it either. I think it's great. There's just maybe it's at the forefront of youth culture, and not just in the working class, in the middle class. There's aspirational stuff there for middle class kids to want to be. Again, we were going back to the 90s. There was kids like that in the 90s. There were kids that pretended to be working class because that was the cool thing.
Yeah. So you played in bands as well, I imagine?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you play? What did you do?
I suppose the most significant band that I played in was Red Star Rebels, which was a UK rock group, and it's the only band I've ever been in where I wasn't lead singer, but it's also the most successful band I've been in. So what does that say? Don't sing, Johnny.
Backing vocals.
But that band was a good time because that was 3 years of just pure fun and hard work. Like just being part of something that starts out by playing to 2 people and a dog in a pub, and then by the end of the year, you're playing to 40 people that aren't your friends and family. And then 3 or 4 months later, you're playing to 200-300 people, and then by the end of that year, you're sending out tours. And to witness that alongside your mates is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like you've nurtured something together. You've all had the same vision of getting to where you want to be. How do you think? Like, what were the factors that made that happen for you?
I think that synergy is probably the key thing. So that the relationship between myself and the other band members, we all had a brother. I mean, literally, not with each other. We weren't brothers, but we all knew what it was like to be a brother, and there was a sense of knowing how to share something. If a plate of chicken came out, we'd all divvy it up immediately. That's how it was. We would paper, scissors, stone to decide everything. From who's sorting out the mailing list to who's going to, graffiti outside the venue, because that was just a thing that we did. It got us in a bit of trouble, but whatever. So whatever the jobs were outside of the musical responsibilities, everything was decided with paper, scissors, stone, and that was just a fair thing. And even though there's so many things that have changed in the music industry in the last couple of decades, there's a few things that haven't changed and probably won't change, and that's hard work and graft and not looking for shortcuts. I remember we were, we'd play to 300-400 people one night and then play to 20 people on the south coast in a pub to no one the next night, you know. And it was like, we've got to do it, because there might be 3 girls at the back of that room that night who will then bring their 10 mates next time. And I think that kind of grounded, humble approach to it was key, because that never went away into, you know. And I think that a lot of young bands, not all, but a lot of young bands overlook that these days, because they feel like they can cheat by paying for online promotion. I'm not knocking that, it's a thing, but I think it's not that sustainable. It's quite easy to, you know, spend money and pull up your data these days, but it doesn't mean people are going to be at your gig on Friday.
Definitely. And also those gigs where you do play in front of no one. I believe me, I've done that as a DJ many a time, probably more times than anyone's been watching. But they're quite character building, aren't they? Oh, you learn a lot in those situations, and if you can get through those like problematic gigs where it is a bit awkward, or, you know, something goes wrong, I imagine when you are in front of a lot of people, it's like, now I'm ready for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember one night being playing at the Portland Arms in Cambridge. And we were always weak in Cambridge. I don't know what, we were strong in this town and that town and this city, whatever, but we were weak there. We just didn't have much of a following. We played Portland Arms, and we were the headline act, and we knew that there was going to be probably no more than 20 people there if we're lucky. It was a cold Tuesday night in December. And so we said, right, let's use this as a little bit of a rehearsal, and let's absolutely go for it. And we did, and there was an A&R from Warner's there that night, who then ended up referring us to it. You know, and it helps to, you know, it was the thing that helped our network build. But I'm telling that story because it's a good lesson, you know, for young bands to keep in mind that, you know, you never know who's there, and it does only take one pair of ears to change your life forever. So that didn't, but nevertheless, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, well done for going for it as much. We absolutely went for it, and there's about 4 people in the room, you know.
Nice. Yeah, I guess if an A&R person sees that happening and they like your music, then they're gonna go for it, because they know what you're capable of. Yeah, that's brilliant, man. That's amazing. I like the thing of graffitiing all of the venues as well. I know it's wrong, but I like that. Like, it's like a trademark maneuver, isn't it? Like, yeah, that's like, cool, man.
Yeah, like not as arty as probably. It's not. It wasn't Banksy level art, you know. We had a stencil and some spray cans, and but yeah, it did the trick. Every now and again, if I'm, you know, off and about on around Britain, sometimes I'll still see graffiti that we did.
Really?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 places that spring to mind immediately where it's still there.
That's cool,
and I think, wow, this was like 12 years ago and it's still there. Yeah.
That's cool. And also you mentioned the mailing list as well, which, I mean, it's not probably it's not a glamorous side of being in a band, is it? Like getting a mailing list together, but that is important, you know, for a fan base. And I talked to a guy called Phil Nelson a few podcasts ago, and he managed the Levelers and the Long Pigs and a lot of other people. The guy from Aqualung, whose name I probably should have said instead of the guy from but yeah, he managed a lot of artists, and he said that back then, like, the mailing list was like the main thing, and the Levelers would not have been as popular as they were without that mailing list.
Really,
like, I wrote down by hand everyone's name and address. It's like you say, it's like an investment, isn't it? You know, those you can get 200,000 SoundCloud plays with a bit of money, but it doesn't really propagate. It doesn't propagate society or propagate people in any way.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And we can be fooled by data, but you can fudge data, as we all know. I mean, so last year I was doing this songwriting session out in New York, and I was sat there with a very, very well respected songwriter, and she was telling me. I asked her about an artist that she was managing. I said, "How's he getting on?" She said, "Well, yeah." She said, "I played him to Atlantic last week. He played a showcase for them, and they absolutely loved him, but he doesn't have enough followers, so they didn't want to invest yet." Now, on the one hand, that might seem dreadful, but on the other hand, if you're an A&R and your livelihood is on the line, you only sign 3 acts a year, and you get it wrong, that's your job gone, that's your family in trouble, you know. Mm-hmm. So I can see it from that sense. I see it both ways. However, this kid stopped gigging, right, stayed in for 6 months and manually blasted his data and signed to Atlantic 8 months later. And that's a true story.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. and I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but because I think that even that was a couple of years ago now, and things have changed again. But I don't think data is less important now than it was 2 years ago, actually, because people are more aware and more savvy about how things can work. But yeah, that was quite telling. I thought it was a joke when she told me, but I was like, wow, really, wow.
Yeah, it's a tough one, that, isn't it? Because that is what you see when, like, let's say you meet someone and you go, oh, you're on YouTube or you're on Instagram or whatever. Like, you do, all of us, you will go to their account and go, oh, it's big, or like, oh, I haven't got many followers. You do make that superficial judgment. We all make that weird superficial judgment, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, for example, my SoundCloud account, I now have 1,000 followers, but I wouldn't make it public. Really, well, I'm going to now, but that's been like 10 years. That's been 10 years of just bad songs and sample packs that have got me, and eventually a podcast, which has got me to 1,000 plays. And that has been such a long time. I could have paid for 1,000 followers, I could have paid for that ages ago. But it doesn't mean nothing. But I remember for me, when I started the SoundCloud, I remember thinking, wow, if I could have 1,000 followers, I'd be like so happy. That was my standard. That
you did it, man. You did it.
It fucking took 10 years to do it, and now I'm like, that's nothing.
But your reach is organic, though. That's the difference.
It's a totally natural. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which has value in itself.
Oh, absolutely. That's triggered a thought in my mind. I remember. Do you remember the days of MySpace?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that long ago now, but in other ways it seems like a lifetime ago. We used in the Rebel Style Rebels, the band I was talking about earlier, we used that to great effect because we got in there really early with it. And what we were able to do is to use, I won't say the name of the piece of the software, but we used a piece of software that enabled us to spam people in the days before they knew that they were being spammed. So you could put their name in there with using the right coding.
Wow.
And so what we do is we go, right, okay, we're playing Brighton on Thursday, so we've got a rehearsal, let's say it's Monday, rehearsing Monday night, right, who's going to leave their laptop on overnight? Well, this piece of software does its thing. and we'd really cunning about it, right? So we'd put we'd leave gaps and put the coding in the right way. It was just HTML stuff where you put the name in and you go, oh, I've seen your profile and I like the bands that you're into, such as and we'd leave a space, and we worked it out so that we could do that, so it felt completely and utterly customised.
Wow.
And then we'd turn up in Brighton on Friday, where we never played before, let's say, for example, and there's 70 people there. And then they come up to you after the gig and they tap you on the shoulder and they go, it's me! and of course they think that you've been talking to them.
Hi, John, Sarah, Jimmy, Dave, Paul, Anthony.
You bring in your soft acting skills. Oh, hey, it's you! Oh, good to see you. And but
that's brilliant.
But people came to the gig, and of course, if the music's bad, they're not going to come back again. So that's why the rehearsal was important 3 days earlier or whatever, because if they turn up and oh god, these guys are terrible, we're not going to see them again. Whereas if staying behind, having a chat, whatever, it means they're going to come back next time, or next time we're on that part of the world that people might remember you. So I don't think that's changed.
Yeah, I think it makes such a huge difference when you actually see a band live. Like, there is you have a connection with that band. Whether you like them or not, if you like them, there's a really strong bond. And it happened to me early this year. I saw a band called Dream Wife, who I would never have bought tickets for at all. Someone said, oh, I've got tickets for this band, I can't go, I'm ill. You'll be in town, do you want to go and see it? And I went to see it, and it was not a band that I would have ever bought tickets for, but it was fucking great. It was really good. And like now I sort of stay with them a little bit, I see where they're touring, and I love their music. But yeah, that difference of seeing someone live, it makes a huge, huge difference.
It does. There's a connection there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's almost like a timestamp, like the way let's say you create a song idea on your phone. Well, you wouldn't on that phone, but on mine.
Not really.
And then there's your copyrights there. Your digital timestamp. And I think that experiences like that with Dreamwife, let's say for example, it's like an emotional timestamp. You're subconsciously putting together the people you were with, what the band were wearing, what song they started with. You might not remember all those details 10 years from now, but it's in your subconsciousness, and you're associating that moment and that time, and that moment that you had with them will never be the same again, even if you see them again in 2 years or less than that. So it's important.
Yeah, man, that's a really, really good point. It is like a snapshot. I think now Facebook has sort of you can do that stuff that you were doing back then in like a sort of in a really ingenious way, what you were doing there. I think Facebook now sort of do that type of thing, don't they? With like targeted.
They do, but people are savvy to it now. It was new then. I think people know they're being targeted now, don't they? I could leave my laptop open right now and leave the camera and the mic on, and me and you could talk about, I don't know, holidays in Turkey, and by tomorrow I'm going to get an advert.
Really?
You know,
is that what happens?
That's the world we're living in, isn't it? And I'm not knocking it, but like that's a thing now. It was never a thing back then. People didn't realise they'd been spammed back in those days, and we didn't even think it was pioneering. We just thought, "Oh, this is cool. This saves us some flyering when we get there." You know?
You're doing it to save yourself doing something else.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
It was a time-saving device. But I think, okay, it's a lot more sophisticated now how you can target people, and there's huge value in that, of course. You know, it puts everybody in control of how they market something, which is brilliant. But people are savvier to it now, and people know when they're being spammed a bit more these days, you know.
Definitely. And I guess there's a lot to sort of go through anyway on the internet, isn't it? We all have, there's so much happening in all of our feeds and all of our things, platforms that we're working on. Something really has to stand out, and if it looks like it might be a bit spammy, it's immediately just cast away.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So how do you describe yourself when people say, like, what do you do in music? What do you say?
You know what, I learnt, my answer to that now is writer producer, right? But like years ago, before I sort of went, because I met my wife in America, right? She's a songwriter. I went out there a few years ago, and that's where we met. You know my wife. And when I first went to America as a musician, I'd go to songwriting sessions or song expos, and I'd say to people, my name's Jonny, I do a bit of pop music and I play a bit of guitar, and then after a while I soon realised that they bastardise our language in such a magnificent way because they make everything quick and snappy, you know. It's like, so after a day or so there, I soon realised I'd be, right, I'm Jonny Amos, pop composer from the UK, boom. I never used to talk like that, but you got to be quick, ain't you? You got to be succinct about these things. So yeah, writer producer.
Right, nice man. Because you got so many strings to your bow with all kinds of different things, with A&R, with production, songwriting, and education as well. Which is sort of where we met through doing workshops.
Yeah. I don't do as much consultation these days. I did do in my early 30s. I worked in A&R for 2 or 3 years, and I really enjoyed it. And it taught me an awful lot about perspective and about how to communicate effectively with people, especially when people are harassing you. Listen to this. And I used to think, oh God, I used to be one of those people. And then that was A&R and on the label side, and then I went into publishing after that, and it made me realise actually, I just want to be creative again. And that's a really common thing for a lot of people. I know tons of writer producers that have gone into A&R jobs and then come back out of it because they're like, I just want to be creative again. You know, and that's where I'm at now at the age of 39. I'm like, I just want to be creative again.
Yeah, I guess it's like the productive skills. You want to do stuff, whereas I guess A&R is quite receptive. You're like responding to things happening, and you're sort of a robot, I guess, in that sense. It's something like, is it good or is it bad?
yeah. And then if it's bad, sometimes it's kind of hard. You know, like if you were to say to somebody, you know, maybe somebody that isn't a musician, that you could say, oh, what's your favourite song? And they'd maybe say, I don't know, Benny King, Stand By Me. Why is it your favourite song? I don't know, it just is. It's good. Why is it good? Because it makes me feel nice. How does it make you feel nice? How deep you want to go with that? You know what I mean? The point is that, like, you know, if something is good, doesn't really matter why it is, as long as you like it.
Yeah,
I can't remember how I got onto this. What were you asking me?
Yeah. I can't remember. I made a point about.
I know, A&R. Yeah. So so that came from, like, when you listen to a song. When you listen to a song and you kind of go, "This is good," and I know where it'll fit. and it'll work in Europe, it'll work for Germany, it'll work for Italy, it'll work. But then you listen to something else and you think, oh, I really like that, but I just don't know where it's going to fit. I don't know who'd cut the song. I don't know. We could re-demo the song or change the instrumentation, or it might work. But like, I think the thing about A&R now is everything needs to be finished. You know, no one expects demos anymore. It's like you want something that's a mastered, finished thing that you can immediately license, not necessarily something that you want to revisit and unpick and spend money on. So, people have to. A lot of people don't get that. If you're submitting a demo to a producer, fair enough, because they've got piano, vocal, whatever is fine. But if you're pitching anything to anyone these days, pretty much other than a producer pitch, it's got to be perfect. Yeah. And there's kind of no excuse for it not to be in this day and age, with technology being where it's at. But,
yeah, at least up there for sure.
Yeah.
Good. So you've worked in lots of different countries, haven't you? You've travelled around. Where's your work taken you to?
Well, I'm signed to a Scandinavian publisher, so I go. They're called TG Publishing. They're based in Denmark, so I go to Denmark probably 2 or 3 times a year. Absolutely wonderful country. I love going there. Great people, great place. They just got everything right over there. I think Sweden as well. I go to Sweden for songwriting trips and for writing camps. Where else do I go? I just came back from Greece recently. I went to studios called Black Rock Studios, which was just incredible. It was built about 9 years ago, and it's set on the island of Santorini, which is where they reckon the original Atlantis was before the volcano blew it up about 5 years ago. Anyway, right, nice. I could go on about that all day, but I won't. So songwriting camps get me around Europe. That's and amazing. Then I also go and put my own trips together in America. So what I'll tend to do is I'll do like my own little scouting missions, where I'll find people through Instagram or through whichever source, or through solicited sources, through my publisher or through other songwriters, and I'll just scout people and just go, right, I want to work with them, and as long as I can find a reason as to why I want to work with that person, and I'll maybe vet them on Skype first or whatever, just to make sure they're reliable, and then I'll go and put together my own little mini writing camps, mini sort of customised camps, where I'll go and work with different people.
That's really cool, man. And I never knew. I sort of known you for a few years and probably more kept in contact through the internet. But I've seen a few people that you've worked with, and I follow them now. And there's a girl in America who's got black hair. I think she was singing in a stairwell on one of her videos.
Oh, Jackie Paladino.
Yeah, that's her.
She's great.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's really good.
Yeah, so she was scouted by the creative manager at TG, my publishing company. She was scouted online by Lottie, who's there at TG. She told me about it. She was like, if you're going to America, go and work with this girl, because she's great. And so I went and I found her. She was studying at NYU at the time, so she was like, "Let's go and get we'll go and get a writing room at NYU." I thought, "Oh, this is interesting." I feel like a fraud here, going to a university in New York all of a sudden. This kid that was playing firsts and thirds on a Casio keyboard. Yeah. Went in there, and the room wasn't available. Like, there was some kind of double booking or some issue. So I was like, let's go and write on the stairs, because there's a really nice reverberation thing going on, and her voice is just killer, So we went and wrote this song, and she had just bumped into her ex-boyfriend, right, in Starbucks at the bottom of the street on Union Square, and she came. So the first time I met her, she was crying her eyes out. She said, "I've just bumped into my ex, and it was horrible, and it made me feel rubbish." I was like, right, let's go and write a song about it. So let's juice this moment, get something good out of it. And so I just kind of sat there like a counsellor. This is what I do with a lot of pop people, right? Yeah. I'll just sit there with a notebook, as you are now, and I'll just go, "So how are you feeling? What happens when you do this?" And I go, right. In my head, I go, right, that's the second verse. We need a starting point here. So how did you meet this boyfriend? And then before they go, and I go, right, we've got half a song here now. So that's how that song came about. And, really? And she said to me, I don't even know what love is. Can you tell me what is love? I was like, can you tell me what love is? Great song title. So that's the song we wrote. Can you tell me what love is? Perfect questions. The ultimate question, isn't it?
And do they know that you're doing that?
No. I've got friends that wrote the first Girls Aloud album, and that's how that album album was written, they just put the girls on the couch and went, right, who's got a boyfriend, who does this, where do you go and do that, who likes skateboarding, whatever, and they just anecdotally put some stuff together and just, and then take it away and put the chords behind it and the beat behind it, and boom, there you go. So
that's genius, because that's exactly what we've just done in our working with the dementia group. That's exactly how we wrote 3 songs. One of the songs was about a sister who was much better than the person singing the song. Like, she spoke multiple languages, she was able to do things really easily, and it was all based on what they gave us as song lyrics. And I was telling people earlier, the lyrics in the song are exactly as they delivered the information, and that's amazing that there's that parallel, that worked for you, and then that also works for the
That's
dementia
completely
group.
transferable to no matter what level you're at there.
Yeah.
From grassroots, you talk about dementia clients there. That works across the board as a songwriting tool. One of many, many ways that you can approach to songwriting, which is, and then these things go and take a life of their own. That song, that was almost 2 years ago now, we did that song in New York. And I had an email through about a month ago from a label in South Africa saying, can we remix this song? I was like, yeah, go ahead, do you think? So I think they repitched the vocal and they've remixed it, and it's going out as a single in February in South Africa, and they've absolutely done such a better job than I did with it.
Really?
If you listen to something and you're like, God, that is so much better than what I did. That's brilliant.
That happens to me most of the time. It's really most tracks I do. I'm sort of, my ears are good enough to go, what I did was worse then. That's great, man. She has got an amazing voice. Yeah. Those tours must be so much fun, especially planning them out, when you're like, I'll go to Boston for 2 days and then stay over. And
well, there's I think you have to go to you have to leave no stone unturned with these things. You just have to absolutely wallop it, And again, that thing I was saying before about my old band, about how we never turned our nose up at playing anywhere. We could play the Astoria, I guess not there anymore. You play there, and then the next day, I'll write songs in McDonald's if I have to. I don't care where I write songs, whether it's in Metropolis or Blackrock or a little room in a stairwell, wherever. I just love writing songs, man. Where that's the nucleus of life right there for me. That's where everything else comes from, is that writing, that instinct to just go, right, let's make something here. Just chords, words, melody. When it comes to real songwriting, I'm a purist when it comes to that. And then when to take it away from that and then start all the beat making, okay, that's where it becomes like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, or the razzmatazz after the sound tech razzmatazz. That's great, man. So what happens when you go to the camps that you mentioned as well? Can you describe them?
Yeah, sure. So they are usually put together in partnership between different music publishers, and with a clear aim of what the territory is going to be. There's usually anywhere between 20 and 25 people on the camps. So usually about sort of seven or eight teams of 3. And in that 3, you've got one producer who may or may not be a top liner and lyricist as well. Then you've got 2 top liners, and maybe the top liners are also artists, maybe, I don't know. Sometimes it can be, sometimes they're not. And you then pick a brief. So you're given your briefs. Okay, today we need this for this artist, and we've had this lead from this label for that artist. So on this day you pick either this one or you pick that one, and then you just go ahead and you start from scratch, and then when you're done, you're done. I mean, that's why I like the residential camps, because if you're on the residential camps and you're staying in the same place, you can just work through till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and get the whole song done. So you don't have to you're not going home with loads of work then. Whereas if you another, like Blackrock, for instance, you have to be kind of done by 8 or 9 o'clock each night, because you go out for a lovely dinner and whatever in the evening, which is nice. I'd rather stay in the studio and get it finished, because I think there's a lot to be said for getting something done on the day and having momentum behind it.
And you can't force the creativity sometimes, can you? Sometimes it happens, and then sometimes you've got to wait for it and let it just settle.
Yeah, I used to think that. I'm not convinced about that anymore,
really?
If I'm being really honest.
What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I try and well, it might sound a bit wacky, but I meditate a lot, and I try and actually not as much as I used to. I should do it more, but anyway, I try and focus ideas so that I can tap into them when I need to. So I remember years ago hearing Paul McCartney talking about this subject, and he was talking about how when his ex-wife Linda was still alive, he would go and take her to a cookery class, and he'd sit there in the next room and write a song. And I was a kid, and I'd be listening to that story, thinking, how does he control the muse like that? Like, it just comes to you and it goes. But I think after years of effort, you can kind of start to channel it in the right way. And there's certain things you can do to measure it. So, for example, I go to these writing camps with a completely open mind to everything around me, whatever idea anyone's got, right? So I'm reactive songwriter to whatever ideas are there. However, I'm also there with like 7 or 8 full tracks that are like mixed. They sound like hit records without vocals on, you know what I mean? And then I also have like 2 or 3 pages of titles and song concepts, not fleshed out into anything, just titles, you know. And then I also have some melodies on voice notes on my phone or whatever. So there's just some kind of starting point that can then be reactive into that space, you know, where people can kind of go, I don't like that, or do like that, let's move that note round here, or whatever it might be, you know.
Cool. And are you there with like your laptop moving things around and flipping the melody back to front?
Reverse it and do this and do that and all that kind of stuff.
For some reason, when you're talking about top line stuff like lead lines, I guess that's with vocals, isn't it? The top line, like lead vocal melody,
or riffs or whatever.
Yeah, well, is it okay for riffs as well? Because that reminded me of when we lived in Brazil. We had a parrot. When I lived in Brazil, we had a parrot.
I know you lived in Brazil. Wow.
Yeah, I lived there 2011. I lived there for a year teaching English. And we had a parrot. And it loved music. It was a blue-fronted Amazon. It was like a green parrot that's about this big, hyper intelligent, really good diction. It could replicate like the human voice.
Oh, it could talk.
Problem. Yeah,
I love talking birds. They freak me out, man.
Great. It was the best pet I've ever had.
Wow.
I've got such a strong relationship with that parrot. And but some songs really connected with it. Like, it really loved some songs, like the melody. What's the Britney Spears song where I think it was Rusko that produced it, where it cuts the vocal, so it goes da 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 da.
Ooh, can't think what song that is now.
It's a Britney Spears song.
Okay.
And he absolutely loved that melody. Like, the moment you played that song, you go crazy. And also Beyonce put a ring on it.
Yeah.
That, he just loved those melodies. All of the Beatles songs, like the Beatles songs from back in the day, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Love Me Do, all of that stuff he loved. So I was thinking, it'd be such a great barometer to have a parrot in your studio, so you could be like the final decision. Because I don't know if it sounds good anymore.
Double up as a sampler.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So good. But I think a really good top line. What I'm trying to say is, a really good top line is just a really good top line for it just works. There's something about those relationships.
Yeah, it's the essence of a song, isn't it? Like, look what we just did right then. If you analyse the previous sentence of what you just said, the melody went like this, right? So if you say to somebody, how does that song go? They're going to sing you the top line. They're not going to sing you the chords because our voices are just monophonic.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So you don't sing chords, you don't sing the drum beat. We emulate something by singing a top line. That's what really, when you really look at it, that's what a song is.
Yeah, definitely.
It's manipulated by chord substitution or production or whatever, but that's how most people associate a song. What is a song? It goes like this. Mm-hmm. Happy birthday, or whatever,
Yeah. I went to a lecture by a guy who produces, and he was the sound engineer for Amy Winehouse's album.
Oh, wow.
Back to Black.
Yeah. Cool.
And he has this really great method of working that I'd never heard anyone talking about, but it's genius, right? So and it's relating to like this finite time that you've got to work in, and also relates to working at night. So what he'd do is if he had someone in to work on a song for like 5 nights or whatever, they start off working at like 8 till 12 o'clock at night on the first day in the evening. This is just how he worked, and then the next day they do 9 till 1 a.m. and then the next night they do 10 till 2 a.m. And so, because what he was talking about was getting like the magic hour in the early hours. Okay. Maybe I've started that quite late. Maybe they didn't start off so late. It was like 6 till 10.
Okay.
But like moving the time into like more into nighttime, which is like slightly more magical. It's just a cool way of working. To like, instead of going in and going, right, we'll do like 9 till 4 every day for 4 days and we'll get these songs done. Like shifting that time period later and later into the night. So it became, just became like a weirdly more magical experience.
It's funny you mentioned the magic hour there, though, because you more often than not, I've experienced that in collaborations, and you can be at it for 11 hours, 12 hours, sometimes longer, and you have that magic hour, and then you spend the rest of the day trying to recapture that magic hour. What was it we did again? Mm-hmm. That's why everyone's got their phones out,
Yeah.
So a few years ago, my wife and I, we ran some songwriting camps that we put together, and we set up the collaborations for only 1 hour each. For each collaboration, it was like 6 in a day or something, and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. It didn't work because the reason it didn't work is because we talk a lot about the magic hour. It's interesting you use that term. I'm sure we're not the only ones, but we were like, well, let's just have the hour. Let's just have the hour, and it doesn't work because you need the 3 hours before it, you need the 4 after, or whatever, to be able to find that magic hour. Mm-hmm. You can't just pluck into it,
But I like that you're approaching it and going, what if we did it like where they just have an hour each together? Because there is like the 80-20 rule, isn't there, that everyone talks about, where it's like you do 80% of the work in 20% of the time, and the rest of the time is just like fucking nonsense. So what you could do to sort of to change the idea a little bit is to go, we're going to do hour slots, but you've got 1 hour slot, and then you've got like a break, and then a couple of hours later you do another hour, and then you do another one, like breaking it up into sessions. I mean, I'm only saying that because the advice I've been given recently in the studio is to have a timer on what I'm working on. So 20-minute timer. I work in 20-minute bursts, and it's amazing for productivity because you're then able to realise how long you're spending on certain things, so you don't go down the rabbit hole of snares for 4.5 hours,
right,
and then leaving the studio going, I haven't done anything there, because you've been lost in trying to get the snare right or something. So you work in 20-minute bursts, and you get a sense of perspective on how long you're taking on stuff, and okay, that's too long to have done that, I'll work on something else. Or
wow, do you find that to be quite effective?
It's really good.
Wow,
really
that's
good.
impressive.
And it's also a rest for the ears too, because we've all sat there in the studio for like 6 hours with the music just pumping loud, by which point the emotional attachment to that pressure change is zero. The bass just doesn't make you feel the same way.
No, and your ears get tired and stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, wow. 20 minutes doesn't seem very long though, does it?
It's not, but it's really good because when you start the time, you're like, right, 20 minutes to do this thing I'm going to do now.
Wow.
And then often, if you've got a big job, it's going to take more than 20 minutes, but I could do this part of it, 20 minutes, get that done, have a bit of rest, have a walk around, think about something else, and then come back. It is really good.
I might try that.
Definitely give it a try.
I like that.
I find if I'm doing synthy stuff, I can't keep to the 20 minutes. It's like, no, it's still going.
Is that because it takes longer, or because you're so engrossed in it?
So into it.
Okay.
I just don't want to stop. I'm just like buzzing off it. But with some things, it really works. It's really worked for me. Like with that track I sent you that I was working on, which was an absolute pig to work on, and I'd spent too long working on it. But that ended up saving me that process, because I could focus what I was doing a lot more.
Oh, right.
It does now sound good, that track, eventually.
It sounds amazing, and it sounds like you had really good fun making it as well. It didn't sound like a long, laborious task.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the word fun, because I sent it to one of the guys at Sonic State, the website.
Oh, okay.
And he said it sounds fun, which is really good. I'm like, wow, there's by the end of it, there's very little fun in it for me. I'm glad someone else is getting fun out of it.
That right there is the key thing, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what you think about it anymore. It's how it's received.
Exactly.
That's a hard pill to swallow for a music creator.
It is, because you think like, I'm slogging through it, they'll slog through listening to it, but no, that's not the case.
People don't care. They're unforgiving and fickle.
Sorry, I talked about myself.
No, it's nice.
That was stupid.
Mate. I like it.
Great. So how about so you have a company called Songlab?
Yeah.
You set up.
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about that? Like when you set it up, why you set it up, what you had to do to set it up.
Right. Okay. So that came about because my wife, well, girlfriend at the time, now wife. So when she moved to the UK from America, we were like, we want to like work together, and we're both in the music game. So let's set up something which we can do together, but not just like for the sake of it. Let's actually have a purpose behind it. So we set up 5 areas of business that we felt we could work at, right? And we were like, right, within 2 years, 3 of those streams will start to emerge as the most profitable and the most fun streams. So that's what happened, and what happened is we were putting together songwriting camps, we were doing publishing, sync licensing, all sorts of different things, and then we started an educational branch, and then we started doing backing track work, and all these things. Were like, okay, let's work out what brings us the most joy, because we've got our other outside interests doing this and doing that, but what's the best bits? Like, what's the bits that make us go, oh, we haven't got to do that today, you know, or oh yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that today. So we really enjoy the educational side of it and the community music side of it and that kind of stuff. And also we really enjoy making tracks for labels, backing tracks for artists and stuff, independent artists and stuff as well. So then we started to concentrate on those things, and then and less so on the publishing. Just because there's with the publishing side, you know, you get hassled by people all the time. Listen to this, and I think, what am I supposed to do with it? I'm like, what? I don't know what to say about it. I've run out of like things to say to people now. Yeah, that's good. I don't know, you know. And so again, it came back to that thing I was saying earlier about wanting to be creative again, you know, and wanting to do something that's meaningful and enjoyable. Yeah, it's ultimately what matters, isn't it?
Definitely. And you, both of you, are phenomenally talented. I worked with you on a couple of workshops, and amazing duo. That, you know, you're married and you're both really good singer-songwriters, and
thank you. Well, it was a lot of work, because when we first started to look into different spaces, and we thought, right, well, if you're renting a space, then you want it to be big enough but not too big, and you need to think about the safety and enjoyment of other people that come here, and so on and so forth. And you know, little things like, I don't know, trademarking the logo. You know, like I've trademarked a few logos now, but at that time I used to think, how do you go about doing something like that? Does it cost lots and lots of money? And then you go, oh no, it doesn't. It costs like 200 quid, and we're in Britain, we're in a wealthy country. There's people's jobs to make sure that's something that can happen for you, you know. So there was things like that, and then there was all the fun stuff like getting the PA and getting the fridge for the milk or whatever, you know, just little things. And then after a certain amount of time, it then started to kind of become something which sort of runs itself, which we can dip in and out of, and then in addition to all the other things that happen at the Songlab, we also use it for our own kind of space for writing sessions or moments like this.
Great, man. Yeah, it's a great place.
It keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah.
Just.
How long have you had Songlab then?
About 3.5 years, 4 years maybe. Yeah. Nice. In fact, where are we now? Yeah, about 4 years. Yeah.
Cool. And we are, of course, in Birmingham.
We are. Not Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah, I've flown out. No, we are. I flew out to see you. Remember, it's which is known for having a really vibrant scene in music, as well as. Are you from Wolverhampton? Did you grow up from?
No, I grew up in Halesowen. And yeah, you know what? When I was a kid, I didn't realise about the whole history of heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't think anything of it. Like I remember, you know, playing football with Robert Plant's son, and then he was at college, and Robert Plant would be at games, and you know, and I'm not saying that was like, oh, that was normal. It's, you know, it's not. It's Halesowen. It's not. it's not Primrose Hill, but you know, and then Judas Priest lived down. A couple of them lived down the road from my mum and dad. You know, and I never ever thought anything of that. But then when you grow older and I don't know, you travel. Let's say you're in America and you're driving down a highway and you see a billboard that says, "We play more Led Zeppelin than any other radio station," and you think, "Wow, that's huge.
A big deal, yeah.
That's a big deal. It means a lot to a lot of people." Now, I knew they were popular, but the heritage of Sabbath and Judas Priest, all this stuff that's associated with the Midlands, I didn't think much of it as a kid, and learned more about it as I grew older. Although, unfortunately, it does have its downsides as well, because people become preoccupied by their past. Like, I love Los Angeles, right? But kind of like that there, a lot of the places there, you know. Sunset Strip, it's just so preoccupied by its past that it doesn't have a present, you know.
How do you mean, like with artists that are playing?
Yeah, with the late 60s era or the 80s era and Guns N' Roses and I'm digressing here, but you know, when somewhere is preoccupied by its past, it stops living a little bit. So now the live music scene in Birmingham is amazing, it never has been in my life, but now it is. There's just venues everywhere. And there's drum and bass nights, there's grime nights, you know, there's all sorts of different things that go on, indie rock, blah, 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 blah. I suppose every city has its own flavour, which is nice, because in the days of, we're in the golden age of sort of deregionalisation and retail parks looking exactly the same everywhere. And actually there's a lot to be said for kind of individualities of cities, and we're in a different era now than we were with the heavy metal stuff. That's gone. That's great, but it's gone. Went a long time ago. And now I just, you know, for someone who's now almost 40, I look around and look at the clubs and look at the students, all the stuff that goes on in Birmingham, and I think, right, what's happening right now and where's it heading to 5 years from now? Because I think as a producer, if you can watch stuff that's bubbling up from the underground before it hits the mainstream, that right there is how you make money.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's being at the and a little bit of like the synergy you mentioned earlier, being in that right place at the right time. Maybe you meet someone who knows about something that you learn about and then start to work.
I get it from listening to students. You know, I what are you into? What are you listening to? Who? Billie Eilish. Wow, who the hell's that? Wow. Oh, yeah, and you go, wow, gosh, she's great. Brilliant, wow. And then you kind of go, wow, look at those, what the hell are those snares? They're like 300 hertz snares. What the hell's this? This is brilliant.
Really, yeah.
You know, and that only comes from, you know, asking people, isn't it? Listening.
And another really good technique someone told me the other day, which is so simple, is mixing your own tune like a DJ, with a set of decks or Serato, whatever you've got. Yeah. Mixing your tune in to a tune that you're aiming to be like.
Wow.
And seeing like, oh yeah, God, the bass is not loud enough on mine. You know, sort of A-Bing it, but you're doing it as a DJ would.
To hear it as context.
To hear it in context.
Wow, that's fascinating, right? I'm not just agreeing for the sake of it. Right behind you over there is a set of Data. They're in that hard case at the minute, which is a big pioneer, you know, digital DJ control. And one of the many things I do in it is exactly that, because
really?
I gain context from listening to something.
Yeah.
And very often I'll just hit the sync button and just, you know, put if I'm doing a future pop track, put it next to, like, you know, a Chainsmokers track or Martin Garrix's track, put it at the same tempo and just filter one out and filter one. To just go, could this be part of the same playlist?
Yeah.
You know, and to answer that honestly, it's quite hard. It takes years of experience, I think, to be able to go, right, is this any good? Because when we make music, we love the new things. In fact, to look deeper at it, we love our own songs in the same way that we love our own children more than we love other people's. People might laugh at me for saying something like that.
No, that's fucking true, man.
It's true,
I'm smiling because that is so true with my own stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's natural.
Yeah.
No crime in it whatsoever. But we lose that sense of objectivity when we create something. because we don't see it for what it is anymore. And so by throwing it onto a deck next to a whatever track, you can start to see it again. I even have, when I can't be bothered to set that up, I have a little Hercules Serato thing which I just put into Serato and do it on there, because I can do it on the go then with my headphones on.
Yeah,
and it just gives it a bit of context.
It's a really good, very simple trick to really test the metal of what you've got.
Yeah.
And I think that part of production is just knowing as many of those little nuggets of try this, or try that get you to a place in good production.
You always need context, always.
Yeah. So going back to pop, I know you're sort of you're focusing around pop, which is great. Like I remember when pop was a dirty word, and I remember when I'd never tell anyone that I like pop music.
Still is to some people.
Do you think? Do you think? Yeah. But I was going to ask you about what you would say was perfect pop. Like if such a thing exists, let's say that it does exist now, perfect pop. What would that be? What sort of artist? And who would that be?
Something what the Danes call it sticky. Something sticky. So something that sticks to you. Hooky.
Mm-hmm.
If it's sticky, it's going to sit with you. But again, I'm going to go deeper than that, right? Because what really matters is if you're feeling something, others will feel it too. And it's the same thing as going, right, I need to fix my boiler, right? I'm going to go on Google and work this out, because I am not the first person this has happened to, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing when you're writing something. If you go, right, my heart's broken because he or she left me or whatever, there will be other people that get that as long as you communicate it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are feeling something and you play a chord and you go, I don't even know what chord that is, it doesn't matter, because there's software that can detect it these days.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is that you're feeling something while you're doing it, because all the other stuff is painting by numbers, and there's skill to it. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But the pure, raw state of songwriting it is just pop music. It just abbreviates. Popular, doesn't it? Reggae fits into it. Garage fits into everything.
Yeah,
it's that production manipulates the style of the song more than anything else, doesn't it? And who it fits with. And I've written some really, I think, good songs for people that haven't got cut because it hasn't fit with that artist, fit with that idea the label wants or whatever. So if what makes something pop is if it pops out at you and says, right, people are going to like this, and then you have to take a risk on it.
Yeah, I like that sticky idea. It's true, isn't it? It's just something that stays with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of songs that sort of happens with. But I mean, like ABBA is a Scandinavian example of like that perfect pop. I know it's a long time ago now that they were prominent, but yeah, their songs are so sticky. You just can't.
Yeah,
and go with them.
Tremendously complex songs as well. The ABBA songs,
Yeah,
you sit
tempo
down
changes.
Oh,
the chorus. What's it in "Lay All Your Love on Me"? The chorus gets slower.
Yeah,
and
who does that these days?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's not that many. I'd challenge anybody to try and pick out songs that actually slow down. And I'm not talking half-time stuff. I mean, actually slow down and speed up.
Yeah.
So Come On Eileen does it. A couple of ABBA songs. I can't think of any others.
No, and it's a risky business. I've always found when I've tried to change, when I've automated the tempo. Normally for me where things go very wrong. They've already gone quite wrong.
Don't do it. It's too hard. It's so disengaging for people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird. And no, I always just relate to the DJ, and I'm like, that's going to really piss off a DJ.
Oh, gotcha.
You've got it all ready to go. Yeah.
They can't use a cue on that, can they?
Yeah, and they just keep pressing it every beat. Still in time. So yeah, I mean, you did mention this guy earlier. Well, we talked about EDM earlier, and I was going to mention because Avicii died this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I loved his music or was a huge fan of his music, but he had some ability to make music that a lot of people loved, didn't he?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm really glad you asked me about Avicii, because his death had quite a big impact on me. Because we've lost loads of legends, haven't we, in the last few years, and we will continue to do so, sadly. No, it's all part of death's a part of life and all the rest of it. But when he died, it really, I felt really hurt, because he has left an Avicii-shaped hole in the world, and it's really difficult to fill it. And I think what made him unique was his ability to be able to hear something and just do something special with it. You know, in fact, I know there's a good friend of mine who I write with who wrote the final ever song he did.
Really? Wow.
And it was, I bet I shouldn't really speak on his behalf about it, but it was very, very emotional. It was about painkiller. He was addicted to painkillers, and it was about that subject. It was a metaphor for something else, actually, but he associated himself with it because of what he was going through. But just his ability to just hear a song, you know. Wake Me Up. Look at Wake Me Up, right? It's country EDM.
Yeah, it's folk music.
Who the hell did country EDM before Avicii came along?
Exactly. I was thinking about this on the way up. Exactly that song, because I remember being on a bus in Spain in the middle of the night, and that song came on, and I was like, this is amazing. What is this? It's like folk music that turned into a huge dance track. Who could pull that off? Nobody. There's nobody that would have ever even tried to do it.
No. And even the riff in that, if you take it away from the country folk element and look at the ding ding diddle ding 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 ding, it sounds like, if you really look at that melody, it feels like you're going round in a helter skelter. It's taking you somewhere. You know, and you think, wow, that's mad.
And Levels is like that too. The riff in Levels.
Yes.
It's a similar thing. You're like, it takes you up and down, but it's always sort of got you.
It's hypnotic, but it's not stuck anywhere. It's not a loop it's stuck. It's going somewhere. And the way he mixed music was phenomenal, and most notably how he's inspired others to not emulate but simulate how he does stuff or how he did things. So for example, let's say a song like Mike Posner, I Took a Pill in Ibiza, right? Song like that, I wholeheartedly don't believe that hits like that would have come around if Avicii hadn't done it, because Sieb did that, right? Sieb, Norwegian duo that remixed that song. They'd heard it. It was like 74 BPM. They took the a cappella, sped it up to like 118 or whatever, put their own thing behind it. It became a hit. And I remember seeing Mike Posner at Glastonbury a few years ago playing that song, and he did his acoustic version of it, and it just went flat because it wasn't the version that the world knew. But my point is that acts like Sieb took songs like that and did amazing things with them, I think, as a result of what Avicii was doing with being
exactly. Yeah, songs. I think, you know, there's so many people that when he was alive hated him and were disgusted by EDM, but I always remember with his music, like I always like, that guy's got something. He's got some like amazing melodic creativity that just looks so easy, because if you watched him when he was on like Future Music magazine, he's just sort of at his computer hunched over just making like the greatest melody ever just by looking at was it FL Studio piano roll, and he's like just putting it together, but it's absolutely amazing. He was such a great talent, and I think you're right, he did inspire a lot of people. And he made so many people happy. Like, regardless if people go, he made shit music. You can't say he made shit music.
No, he didn't.
Millions of people were smiling, jumping around, listening to that all over the world.
Anybody that ever says he made shit music, I could write them a 20-page dossier as to why they're wrong. I really could, because he was just his reactive ability to music was phenomenal. You know, when you think about it, right? If you create music on the one side of your brain, and you detect whether it's any fucking good or not is over this side, right? Or the other side of your head, right? So what really defines you as a musician is this interfacing in the middle. Is it good? Is it not? Have I done something right? Have I not? Am I good at creating things in the first place, right? Now, he was able to combine those things and project something of just pure brilliance. And what I think wound a lot of people up the wrong way was how we do stuff live. And I love people like Don Diablo and Martin Garrix and all these EDM guys that kind of go out and just, they've got their laptop and their DJ controller, and they're not doing a whole lot, you know, they're dancing around, but who cares, right? Because when you go and watch a rock band, they're playing it all live and people get it, right? It's tangible, it's digestible, it's consumable. They're right there and they're playing their instruments, and they might make mistakes, right? You go to an EDM gig, it sounds utterly amazing because it's been pre-mixed and they're doing stuff on the fly that's, you know, cool or whatever.
It's all
and
synced.
yeah, it's all synced, and no one minds, because that's what you buy into, and you go to I don't know, a Steve Aoki gig, and he's going to get the cake out and throw it at people, and and it's just a great big party. It's just wonderful. I think what EDM has become in this modern age is phenomenal. It's dominating Las Vegas, it's dominated Ibiza for God knows how long, and it will continue to do so. Look at Tomorrowland.
Yeah,
it's the biggest thing in the world.
That's crazy. I love that video of David Guetta when he's tripping at Tomorrowland. Have you seen that?
Yes!
That is one of my favourites. I love that video. He's just staring at the camera and there's like this hypnotic scene happening behind him, and he's going, oh shit.
But I think it's great because, I'd be as bold as say I think Guetta, however you say his name, is a genius. I really think that.
Yeah,
and
grafted real
hard, God,
that
not only has he learned his craft as a DJ, but also he sits and... Okay, so here's why a lot of people have a problem with him, right? Is because he doesn't do a whole lot on stage live, right? But here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. His work is pre-programmed, right? His work is when he's not on stage, and that's why it's so damn good when he is on stage, and his ability to evolve. So if you look at what he did with Sia on the first time they collaborated with Titanium, boom, 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 128, 4 on the floor. Look at his last single with Anne-Marie, You're Not Alone. It's just amazing. It's moved into what he did with Bieber earlier on this year. He does this stuff where... Okay, he's like, right, okay, I'm not going to have a beat 2. There's no kick on beat 2 anymore, right? Because that's where the world's at. So instead, he'll do something completely different with technology and triggers of auto-tune triggers. And, look what he did on that hook on Alone with Anne-Marie. It's just genius. I've never heard anyone do that before. Not even the Chainsmokers have managed to do what he did with that hook.
What did he do?
I think, I've reverse engineered it, and I might have got it wrong, but I think what he did was he used auto-tune effects to MIDI trigger the notes so that the pitch quantization was perfect and perfectly modulated into a brand new hook. So I think that's what he did, right? But that might not be perceived as creative skill. That's detective skill, which is equally as important, if not more important.
Technical skill to know that that's possible.
That as well, yeah.
You could accidentally just do it, but more than likely he's gone, oh, what happens if you do that?
But even if you did it accidentally, that's okay, because you could either... You do something accidentally and you could either go, I didn't mean to do that, or you could go, hang on a second, that should be a feature in this track. That was brilliant.
Yeah, it's just opened the door somewhere.
How often do you move something around in FL or Ableton or whatever, and you move something and you go, oh, bugger, put it in the wrong place. Oh, no, it's much better there.
Yeah.
And that's your detective skills right there.
Exactly. I think the thing that occurs with me in Ableton is when the loop point goes to like one beat.
Oh, yeah.
It goes jing, jiggy, jing, jiggy, jing, jiggy, jing.
Yeah.
But you've got a melody bit in there and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Duplicate that all the way. Yeah. That's great. I love
I know
moments.
exactly. That's a lovely feeling.
Yeah.
Now, what was I doing all this time before then?
Yeah, exactly. That's way better. The accident's better than what I was trying to do. So what sort of stuff are you working on at the moment? What are you up to now?
At the moment, I'm trying to get successful in Asia, specifically South Korea. The K-pop market, it's just, when I first heard K-pop music, I just thought, this is crazy. What the hell is this? You've got singer-songwriter verse going into a rock pre-chorus, going into an EDM chorus, dropping into a future-based chorus B. This is chaos. And then I started listening to it more and more and more. And and a lot of the guys that are on the same roster as me have done quite well out there. And it's a very physical market. You make good money. So I thought, okay, I'll keep listening to this. So I did what I've done with various genres over the years. I have little techniques where I immerse myself into a genre or genres by listening to it non-stop. So I fall asleep to it at night.
Really?
Yeah, keep it in so it soaks itself into my psyche, so that I can then start to work out numbers behind where the kicks are, and then I'll just make sure that I listen to it constantly when I'm driving. So even though you might want to have a treat and go, I want to put on, I don't know, free radio 80s. That's my treat. You know what I mean, 80s music. But I think, no, can't do that. I've got to listen to the latest K-pop playlist on Spotify because I need to listen to it. So that's what I'm working on at the minute, and I want to get some hits out there, and I'm working with the right people to make that happen. I just need to carry on learning. And my next, I'm actually doing a side project for the first time in 10 years called Glow Beats, which launches next year, which is an EDM future pop act, which is basically me collaborating with other artists and releasing material and sample packs and stuff like that. And that has basically come about as a result of writing all these songs at songwriting camps internationally for people, and just knowing that you've done something good that sometimes doesn't even get cut because it's not because it isn't necessarily good enough, but because it's not suitable for whoever. So I think, right, I want to get this music out there, but not just ego, not just because I want to, but because there's a purpose.
Yeah.
And so I'm really, really, really into where the market's moving in terms of how you can lease tracks and how you can release a track and then have people sample it and make money off it that way. And I keep talking about money because we have to make a living, but it has to be sustainable ideas. But I'm just interested where everything's moving to at the minute, because even 5 years ago people were still talking about downloads, and that's dead as a dodo now. And streaming is kind of helping our industry again. A lot of people don't see it that way, but it is. You only have to look at stats to see that there's year-on-year growth with streaming.
Yeah.
The next thing after that is kind of resampling, where people can buy the music in order to use it for themselves. So you're almost selling music to community music creators and DJs and so on and so forth. And so that's a growing market. It's not going anywhere. It's getting stronger and stronger. It's just nice to be kept up to date with. I mean, I'll work on whatever, Chris. Really, if my publisher says, "Oh, we need a singer-songwriter track for some kid who's just signed to Warner's in America," cool, right? I'll do that. Whatever. And it's not that I don't care. I care, of course I care, but I write them songs in my head, not my heart.
Yeah.
I
think Ben Folds has quite a famous song of his called One Down, and it's about getting another song down that he was meant to do, like writing, like you're saying, like writing songs with his head, because whoever's asked him to write a song, he's just got to do it. And the lyrics for the chorus are 1 down and 3.6 tomorrow, then I'm out of here.
Oh,
so
right,
like,
wow.
I've got one song done, I've got 3.6 songs to do tomorrow, and then I can go home.
That's interesting.
It's a classic, like, if you're a big Ben Folds fan, which I definitely was, maybe not now, I mean, it's huge, but I was when I was like 15 or 16. When he plays that on stage, like the real hardcore, like, yeah, that's the fucking song.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
1 down.
Okay.
Really
he
cool.
was with Ben Folds 5 and all that stuff. That was big, wasn't it?
Oh, I loved it. I was a huge fan. At college, that was like my band.
Oh, wow.
Fucking loved them. Saw them live at Birmingham Academy.
Ah, okay.
Manchester Academy. I was
they were,
a huge fan when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, that's nice, man. But yeah, I suppose you can write from your head. There's nothing wrong with it. Loads and loads and loads of hit records happen all over the world right this second from people writing with their head. But you just have to get that balance right sooner or later, don't you? For something to truly resonate globally, I think it has to come from the heart.
Yeah.
Look at Adele, those songs are so raw, so real.
Exactly. And to me, I've been translated Adele songs by High Contrast. His remixes, his drum and bass versions of like Hello, and like other pop songs. I don't know why. That's when it hits for me. Like,
that's fine, man. But you know that about you, and that's good. You're an experienced musician. You've been doing it a long time. That's good that you know that you consume it that way.
Yeah, I need it to be 147 BPM.
I'll bear that in mind.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think the sample industry is an interesting one to get into too. You can definitely be your own boss in it, and you can definitely carve out your own niche in what you want to do, which is cool. The content. What's great about the sample industry is the content is totally down to you. Whatever you want to provide, there's an outlet for it.
Well, yeah, and it might be that I think we're in an age now where you can be walking down the street and hear a busker playing, I don't know, saxophone, and you think, I want to go and collaborate with that person there on a sample pack. Because I know how to do it. and he knows what to play. And if we work together, we can get it done. And I don't mean that. I'm exploiting that sack. I made that example up, but but
no, that's how it works.
Yeah,
that's definitely how it works. Absolutely.
And and then what happens if you put that sax through a vocoder? What happens if you reverse it? What happens if you then put that in a drop on an EDM track? All these things, and you start to go, wow, we've got so many options, but we have to try a lot of different things in order to see where it's all going.
Yeah. One sample pack super weapon though is Tim Exile's The Mouth.
Oh, yes.
Just get that.
Okay.
Because you can run anything through it. Whatever it is, you put it through it and you'll be like, what? I can't believe what that sounds like.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's like 40 or 50 quid. But honestly, I've never had anything that I've used and gone, this is like sample pack artillery. This is like what you need on the front line to just go, what the fuck, I never would have done this. I never would have made this sound with a saxophone without Tim Exile's Mouth.
Oh, wow.
For sure, man.
I'm glad you said that, because I remember it a few years ago, and I haven't done anything since, so I might check it out again.
It's really good. Just run stuff through it, just click through all the presets and then change them all. It's really, really, really good.
Wow.
Great. Well, we haven't really talked about your number 9 in Australia.
Oh, that's fine. No one wants to hear about that.
And we haven't also talked about your number 1 that you had as well.
Oh, right, yeah, that's the whole story behind that. But that was the 4th artist to cut that song. Mm-hmm. That was one of those ones, I call that song, that was like a musical tinnitus. It was like a melody that I kept hearing all the time.
Right.
I totally lost my sense of objectivity behind it, changing the chords all the time. Brought in a co-writer. He helped me to finish off the song, and we got it cut with a girl that won The Voice a few years ago, and nothing really happened with her, so we ended up using it somewhere else, and then a group used it as part of a hip-hop track. They got dropped, and then eventually I sent it off to this cool little singer in Portugal who came over and was like, yep, let's record the song. She came over and cut 3 songs. I did 3 songs for her, and then the one became a hit out there. So brilliant. Yeah, that was just that. It's a bit fluke, to be honest. Like, I've written better songs than that, but whatever.
Yeah, you can't control those reactions from the audience, can you?
No.
Yeah. Great, man. That's brilliant.
That's the short version.
Yeah, the bullet points. There's so much more as well that I sort of planned to ask you, but we've had a good chat, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you for coming. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man.
Oh, what an absolutely top guy. Had a great time talking to Jonny. Haven't seen him for a number of years, but he's someone who always resonates positivity. He's always got a solution. He's always got a great musical idea, and he's just a great person to work with, and he is phenomenally talented. Check out Songlab as well, the company he runs with his wife. They're both supremely talented musicians and vocalists. Okay, next month I'm speaking to a cellist who works in the electroacoustic realm. She does a lot of cool things, experimenting with the sound and how sound can be generated, made and arranged. It's going to be a wicked chat. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Midierror. This was Midierror Meets, and I'll see you again soon.